Happened as well. The discussion.
The only question that I have is on the expenditures. I just want to verify that 65,000 is annual premium, correct?
That's the increase.
For the
Okay.
expenditures, that's the monthly.
That's a monthly. Okay. All right, thanks.
If there's no other discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. General agenda. Attachment 4, HLC notification program.
So this relates to cyber. Okay, so we're bringing this back for you to consider to reapprove. We made adjustments to it to be in alignment with the board's aligned programs for computer support specialists with concentration in cyber, which may open more stable revenue streams for the formula funding for the. So there's very little change to the program to get the structure of it in alignment with cable.
This is a different.
Oh, sorry.
Is this your HLC notification? So for additional locations, we have to submit an application to HLC each time we want to add an additional location, and it's a fairly long form. Now that we have 3 additional locations, we can submit an application to go into a notification program where we just have to notify HLC. But in order to do that, I have to have internal approvals to attach to that application.
So we're asking you to approve that we can do the HLC modification and more additional location.
I would move that we approve that.
Yeah.
Whatever it means, yes.
It's like.
It's a lot less red tape.
So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? You second it?
Sure.
Okay.
John pointed at you.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Professional development.
Yeah, there's a lot. Many of us have been to conferences. We'll try to keep this short, just quick updates. We'll start with some creative adult ed.
Sure. So the national conference is the Coalition on Adult Basic Education Initiative down in Dallas. These 3 instructors, Brian, and 2 ESL instructors went with me. A lot of sessions. It's kind of an overload, but it was connect. What do you have? It was your first time, so.
Yeah, it was my first time. I thought it was pretty neat because I was able to kind of interact with some of the other schools and stuff. One of the things that that was in the packet was that Michelle and Lindsay met and agreed to share their curriculums with other ESL programs. So that kind of gives an idea of kind of a lot of the stuff we did is a lot of collaboration. I mean, the sessions were good. I think the first day was probably the best one I liked the most, but a lot of the collaboration, I think that's where it really kind of hit home and stuff like that. Plus, we got to be down there with other Kansas schools as well.
ASU GSV.
For the sake of time, this conference was just massive and overwhelming. And
What did it concern?
AI, VR, everything. In fact, it was in workforce, everything. It was basically 2 conferences in one. It was a conference that was Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It overlapped with one that started Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The takeaway from it is we have a long way to go with AI. There's a lot of good things happening out there. There's a lot of companies that are already using these things in the workplace to not necessarily replace individuals, but to utilize them in a more personal manner. And then the AI is taking over for approvals, authorizations, and all these other pieces. There's one and this conference alone has spurred so many demos. I kept Josh, Neil, and everyone else and David busy. We've all been attending these things, but one that was really cool is we can create AI agents. So it gives them a face, it gives them a voice. tell them what they can and cannot approve. And for like 90% of our stuff, it could just go through and approve it. And then when a student hits a barrier, that's when an academic advisor can really step in, work with them one-on-one, and then move on. So there's some ways to streamline, and it's just gonna be. That's what I got.
Higher Learning Commission Conference, it was Josh's first one, so let me start with him.
Yeah, I had never been in all my years here, so it was really nice to kind of understand a bit more about the academics and that side of the world that I'm normally not very involved in. There was a lot of really good keynotes. I know you connected with the one you probably talk about. And then just now, it was interesting just to hear with all the political climate, with everything going on with the Department of Ed, et cetera. There's a lot of good finance stuff. Was really glad to get to go.
Kim, Kara, comments from you? Anything?
In addition to the kind of legal and legislative concerns at HLC, they've had two initiatives that they've been focusing on the past few years for credentials and student success. And they had several updates about that, looking at how we can focus on student success and the student as a whole, not just did they graduate or not. And then building on credentials, leading into competency-based education.
Yeah, going off what they both said already, they had some good sessions, finance ones this year. So they had some on budgeting that were really helpful, because there's a lot of schools that are, also going through budget cuts. And so just looking at different programs or specific courses and seeing what the enrollment is and what can we do different, setting minimum enrollments and things like that are things we've already been taking a look at. Yeah, and then Nakubo gave a presentation there as well, and they really went in depth about the different things that they offer just on their website and different things we can use just to help build the budget and just give us some different ideas. So it was really good.
And the president's session was basically, oh my God, we don't know what the feds are gonna do, hang on. AACC is the American Association of Community Colleges Spring Conference. I'm on the commission for small and rural colleges. I gave you a summary in my report. Brian and Susie attended first time, so let me see what they have to say. Go ahead.
I guess I will. So, again, this is another one, first time. It was crazy how many schools were there. I mean, there's schools from Hawaii to Alaska to all around the United States. One of the things that I got from it though is I got to go to a session where one of the schools is doing co-requisites, and the lady that was leading it has actually got a whole bunch of research and doing a paper on it. So I'm going to reach out to her. Well, then she said, we're getting ready to rebuild our tech math program. And she liked the way we were doing tech math. So I'm going to send my syllabi to her. Another thing I saw, I thought would be very beneficial for our welding program, as they showed like these VR machines that. So one of the things that, that we're maybe looking at is how can we utilize our instructors to fulfill the most students? So what they would do is they would have, let's say usually you have 20 students, they would have 40. 20 would be in the lab, 20 would be in the classroom. But they would utilize a VR so that when they went out to the lab, they already knew how to weld. And they said that they saved a lot of cost on, the material, because since they already knew how to weld, they didn't waste a bunch of material or acetylene or anything like that as they were doing it. So a lot of good stuff to pull from that. I've still got to go back and look at my notes when I get the time, but I really enjoyed it.
Yep, me too. I will say that it was huge. It was a huge conference with many sessions to choose from. So it was a little bit hard to find the right spot where you wanted to be. And then when you decided to go to it, sometimes they were full. And so then you had to pull an audible and sit somewhere else. But there were a lot of student services ones that even though my job is not directly in student services, it's interesting to me. So I went to a few of those. Interesting to see how community colleges are different from technical colleges. My past experience is at K-State and at four-year institutions. So it's interesting to see the difference in between all of those, but different, but the same at the same time. So I was happy to go, and it was a good conference, and good to kind of have some time away and reflect on some things that we're doing and get some good ideas.
She got to hang out with me too, so.
I can.
That was the best part. No, I actually didn't see him. It was like so big
Yeah.
that like we didn't even really see each other.
Yeah.
So it was our. Love it.
So in the middle of a lot of conferences for people, we actually had a lot of other things going. So the chamber reached out about the site selector. What comments that person made from LinkedIn. I think we hit a home run. I think we had a grand slam on that, but that's a reflection. We're doing more and more of that with the chamber and with Pot County Eco Devo. Number two, that's Australian concrete 3D. Hashtag. And again, this was a request from Darren at the chamber. They had the CEO of this Australian 3D company. They're looking for a place in the middle of America to set up, to manufacture their stuff, work on expanding their businesses. And John, I think you had some involvement with them. It was a very positive meeting. Chris and I and Pam had seen examples of it in Phoenix last year. But we'll see if anything comes of it, but they have a curriculum we can use, et cetera. Career Day, Neil's not feeling well, so I think you're in
Yeah.
charge of that one.
So with Career Fair, if you saw our Facebook post, there were 61 employers that came. We condensed it all into one day since we have the nice new building. We filled 2 bays in the hallway. We had 169 job seekers. That included our students, a few public. I didn't see any military this year, but that was good. Huge kudos from what I was gathering for nursing. All employers came by and were very impressed by the professionalism. They all dressed up, they had resumes. From what I've heard, we've had 3 students that have been hired directly because of the career fair. So that's a win in my book. And with PTMW coming in, they're lining up a lot of the folks who came and stopped at their booth. Signing day was also a success. We used that first big bay. We had 150 participants, students, parents, outside folks coming in and businesses. We gave out $2,000 in scholarships. And if you didn't get to see it, I think the video is still on YouTube. The last one was awesome. Just tell how relieved the family was to get some financial assistance.
What was PTMW?
PTMW is a manufacturing company out of Topeka that they're moving, they have
Stuff over on Page
site.
Okay.
They build what they call skids. They're basically large manufactured metal implements and all that pieces.
Thank you.
And again, they reached out to us as well as the chamber, so we were a pretty decent part of getting them to come here.
I was aware that I just had trouble translating the acronym to what it was.
I've had way too much caffeine today, so I'm talking really.
I noticed.
The railroad uses a lot of their buildings for their signals, things such as that.
And they've already been here and on Port Riley, and they're gonna be a great partner working with us with the soldiers.
Absolutely.
Go Green Day, Susie and Harry,
Money,
we hope so.
yeah. I'll let Susie talk about it, and you were really the
Okay.
leader of this whole effort. You
Was
might
it-
give them a sense of the money that we
It
raised.
was a group effort. So we did do some marketing ahead of time. Chris and Bryant worked hard to get the word out. We sent letters, emails, postcards, and then I think we did a couple of reminder emails. You guys have probably all got all of those. All those little pokes that we were poking at everybody. Social media posts, we had that scheduled, and I think Rachel did those. Yes, and she does a great job with our Facebook. But it was good to see those going out. And then the day of, we did a patio party, and Chris made all the pork and I did the rest. And then we had I went around and begged people to come for a couple of days and reminded people gently to come out for the barbecue. But we had 117 students that showed up for that, and that was pretty cool. To enjoy the patio that day. We had cornhole and some fun stuff, but the main point of that whole thing was just to get faculty, staff and students out to the patio and to participate in Grow Green and learn what it is, because I was kind of surprised at how many people didn't know what it was for. So, that's a start with that. So out of the faculty and staff, we had 26% last year contribute, and we had
55%.
55% this year. So that's pretty good.
Patio party alone brought in,
$2,700. 27.25, I think. 3 cents, I think. There were some pennies in the donation box and I was like, whatever, like, I'll take whatever.
What was the total
Well,
amount?
we had a little over 18,000, so we'll end up at around 27,000 with the match. Pretty good.
This is a record for us.
You actually had some of the staff from Bio Kansas were in town and they came by and made a contribution as well. Michelin was here, their rep was here. Yeah, it was-
And we had a lady stop by, which was probably the coolest part of the day for us personally. She stopped by and she walked right past us. I offered her cookies and everything and she just kept walking. So I didn't think anything about it. So, but then she came back out and she said, I'd like to write you a check. And she did a $1,500 check for GED student testing specifically. And she mentioned Rachel as well. She used to be one of Rachel's teachers.
A high school English teacher, and I'm from Dodge City, and so is she, and she's kept up with my life, and she loves adult ed and all we do here.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And Beth was sitting there when she did it, and a little tear in her eye, so that was pretty cool. Okay, I think that's all.
I would put out a challenge / request. I got countless letters from organizations saying the same thing, donate to Go Green Match Day, and it had no impact on my choice for what I was gonna donate to Go Green Match Day. So maybe save your money on postage and letters, and maybe there's another, you have like a year to come up with a different idea to get people to donate. I don't know.
I can speak slightly to that, because we right now are gathering a ton of student stories. In fact, I interviewed 2 students today. And I agree with you. We want to make it more personal so people can see kind of like where's my money going. So we're working on stories, videos, but I would love to hear more, but I like that. Yeah.
I got a bunch of those too, and I think actually we talked at the baseball game about it. There's so many places that people money that day. I don't know how side.
and
But-
do not disagree at all. And I'm sure those mailers, there were very few that made direct impact, but the fact that we were able to put student testimonies on this year. I got one in the mail and I knew it was coming and I even read the quote and read the stuff, but then I threw it away. So at least then there was it's in somebody's mind.
To be honest, I saw it, I read Go Green Match Day, and I put it in the recycle bin. Didn't need to get to the story.
Did too.
So,
I think what it says is you've got to build it through the year, so.
Right.
I mean, match take care of the people.
To be honest, we
Ahead of
started
time already decided.
Still before last year.
Nice. thing.
about a month and a half out, so it was.
Yeah, and we're working better, marketing and outreach and everything's working a lot better on having a schedule. We've already met and just basically scheduled out throughout the fall, so that's a good idea. Glad that you will.
I will say part of like what I wanted to do that there just wasn't time to do it this time. I'd really like to start reaching out to our alumni. We don't really do that.
Sure.
And then other just random companies around town. I mean, I'm shameless. I'll walk in and they come to our party or whatever. But we didn't really have the time to reach very far out. I don't feel like we sent it to like our normal people that we send it to, our donors and our ribbon cutting list and people that hear from us always, but we didn't reach farther than that. So we have some places we can still look for people, I think. So
That's a good
maybe I
thing.
should start working on it now.
yeah, no, I mean, it's great, just, improve always.
Yeah.
Mhm. Agree.
Harry, anything you want to add from your report?
No, just a couple things. Josh, if you could go to attachment 5 and would ask you all to go to that in your. One of the, I have two responsibilities as a contractual arrangement with Jim and the college is to focus in on development, fundraising, as well as community and government relations. I mean, all those things, when it comes to community and government relations, it's all about building relationships with individuals that potentially provide funding or. So one of the things we're gonna really go after this year is to kind of rejuvenate foundation board and the foundation work. We've got one board member, and we got commitments from 2 others, Dave Lewis and John Ford. John may be questionable, John, as it relates to maybe some county money coming our way, and he would have to bow out of the vote, and we would need his vote. So we'll have to rethink that. John Harper's has agreed to kind of be our liaison between the foundation and your board, the operating board. And then we have a list of about 5 other names that we're going to with. I mean, with more. So that's playing out. One of the things that tomorrow I'm going to find out. I mean, and you know, Kara and Susie and I are going to meet to talk about the financials of the foundation. And I think one of the things that's going to be helpful for me is to find out what's restricted, what's unrestricted, for cash on hand, and maybe develop a dashboard for the foundation board that they simply look at 1 page, get a solid understanding of financials. Collateral materials in terms of communications with individuals in the community is critical. I've been blown away by the work that you all are doing. There's several documents that we can use on individual business when we meet with people, automotive trades, construction trades, as well as healthcare. And so those are going to be the 3 primary areas of interest. Today I met with Darren and George at the chamber, and we're going to start doing some individual visits together, and we'll bring Chris and David on those visits to ensure that we're developing short-term and long-term relationships with the business community. And then what you see in under item 2 is just a laundry list of meetings and individual face-to-face conversations that I've had this past month.
Can I jump in? I want to expand a little bit. We talked about the finance and the dashboard. I'd like this board to consider working with Jim and Kara to do the same thing for the whole board. The numbers, I think, there's a lot of it's already in there. My experience in other boards is most have a hard time reading through all the finances. And in some other organizations, we've developed a 1-page dashboard. And I would hope that with everything else going on, that maybe we could have a couple of board members sit and work with you and see if we could come up. A dashboard to me is not just a recapitulation, making it prettier of the numbers we have, but it's what are the key things that we ought to be looking at to carry out our fiscal responsibilities? And how do we track that? So each month when you come and say, well, we've got just what we talked about previously. We would have a better handle each month on where we are, where we've been, and what it means to us. So I don't know if the rest of the board like to do that, but I would urge us to consider. And then I'll be glad as we do that to work with Harry and the foundation and see if we can come up with one there. I think they feed each other.
We have lots of data and information, but how is it of best use to you?
Yeah.
So
I'll just briefly, I can tell you that, you know, our hospital is Ascension Via Christi, so it's a lot more hospitals. But when I was board chair, we did this as a local hospital. It's now the standard in all of Ascension Via Christi and may soon be for all of Ascension across the United States. It takes a little bit of work, and it's not saying anything's wrong now. It just makes it so board members can look at 1 page with all the backups. So if we have a question, then we can get it.
So you're just saying financial, or you're saying like more like some KPIs with quality and?
I'm right now just talking financial.
Okay.
Then we can move beyond that once we get that settled.
Where are you guys at right now in the development of this financial dashboard?
Starts
for the
tomorrow.
Foundation.
It starts tomorrow.
Okay,
I finally, Kara sent me a one pager. It gives me a snapshot of, how much money we have in play. Most of that is, I think, are restricted scholarships and that kind of stuff. So I think it's gonna be real easy for us to create that.
well, that might be a good template to work from once you develop that and kind of use that to kind of carry over towards a dashboard for the.
Yeah, I mean,
For the
typically you look at
operating.
your assets, you look at your liabilities, cash on hand, snapshot of, where you're at. Hopefully there's more money in the till than that's leaving.
Well, I think it's a great idea, John and Harry, and I think, I applaud you for doing that from a foundation perspective. I think moving in that direction for the operating organization makes a lot of good sense as well. And if it sounds like you've already volunteered to be involved, John, if you are willing to do that, I mean, I would be happy to volunteer as well, and maybe we just come up with a
Work
3-person.
with you guys.
I think if you work with Kara, just so we can look at what data we already have.
Yeah.
I would make it of more value to you.
So maybe we can get linked up and try to figure that out going forward. Good with that. Anything else, John? on that?
No, that's, you brought it up there.
You have anything else on the foundation
that's it.
report?
No, I think the rest of it reads there.
Okay.
Everybody.
Ryan, you got 2 minutes.
Hey, Jeff, did you have anything? I see, I think you're on there, aren't you? You want to say something first? Like my students.
Jeff says he doesn't have a mic.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's stapled, so I should be done in like 15. So as you can tell, the first item up there, the small things matter. So for the sciences, as you can see, he got new chairs. Enrollment's really good. So I don't know, maybe that's our key. We get really good chairs, we get better enrollment. I don't know. Communications and tech writing. Rachel did their partner presentations, and I'll admit, I asked her, what is catch wrestling? And so we got to have a little conversation on what catch wrestling is. So that way you guys can Google it when you get home. But it is interesting in some of the things that our students will come up with as far as like the origins of Monopoly. And she told me some of that and how, how that was interesting. The social sciences, Callie started a new group therapy program called Thrive. And then there's some other stuff about student voice council in there as far as like their meeting and stuff like that. With me, I talked already a little bit about the conference in Nashville. One of the things I saw was a queue. I need to look it up a little bit more, but that's kind of like a program where faculty can basically learn to teach. So it's kind of one of those things, it's an actual class. It's not just a one-day presentation, maybe beneficial. One thing that we don't have up there, I got to talk with Omega High School right before I left for Nashville, which made my Nashville trip even better. Because they actually want to start working with us on the math side of it. And the instructors want to work with me and getting the students prepared so that hopefully with the co-requisites, they'll be successful. The higher path career, there's a lot of staff and faculty that went to that. I saw that Kim was on there, Jaron, Jason, that they got to work with middle school students about career paths. Again, start early, get them going early as far as what they would like to do. Maybe it's good that Jeff's mic doesn't work because I guess his students really liked his program and he goes above and beyond. Being a gen ed instructor, I can say from a lot of the programs, I hear a lot of the same things. How genuine their instructors are, go above and beyond, and they learn more than just the curriculum that's supposed to be taught. I think that's kind of our bread and butter of our college and why we're number one. We don't just teach the curriculum, we teach them how to be responsible adults along with curriculum, along with other stuff outside. Welding, there's 6 students that are graduating from Fort Riley. Is that gonna be a separate graduation or how's that?
Holds their own graduation on May 16th. We have 2 students that'll be walking in that, and then we have 2 students that'll be walking on our graduation the following day.
Yeah, so, hopefully we can expand out there. Job placements, as you can see, all but one of the construction students and 2 of the HVAC students have jobs. And again, another one of those things, I mean, there's plenty of jobs out there if the students are willing to go after them, so. With nursing, again, Rachel does a really good job with, Facebook and stuff like that. And you can see there, that with the MLT, it was National MLT Week. I know the program had a lunch and stuff like that. And it was kind of nice, to put that exposure out there, which Rachel does very well. As far as like CNA, there, if you see there, I thought it was pretty neat. We had a past student that was recently featured on outstanding undergraduate student in exercise science at the University of Southern Mississippi. So again, they're not just stopping here, they're going on to universities, which is a lot of our students. ESL, GED, you had Lindsay presented at the K-State Graduate Applied Language Teaching Symposium. And one thing that they're doing a lot of, and I think Chris has brought this up a few times, working with Florence and Manco. So you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Just really quickly, met with Manco yesterday. We just wrapped up our spring ESL class out there. Students came back, they did a survey. All students loved it. Supervisors gave us some feedback. They were amazed. Students are able to talk to them in English on the floor. They had 10 students this last time. Not everyone made the class. So in the fall, we're going to start up our expanding classes. They're just ecstatic. And now we have official MOU with them for state submission, and the Board of Regents is very happy with how we're integrating adult ed into the workplace.
So if you notice, he's already used 2 of my 15 minutes. So now for the ESL student entrepreneur, it's kind of neat to see that, how she had brought her occupation from another country and brought it into the US now, and applying that, and hopefully we'll continue on with the program. New citizen, we have the ESL students now getting their citizenship, which is nice. I know with the Afghan women, I've gotten to work with them in some of my math classes and stuff like that. I think one of them actually became in the teaching program at K-State.
Yeah, correct.
So, I mean, again, going on to better things. A lot of students are passing their GED test. So now I get to kind of put my little, what Chris and I heard today, that we were meeting with the state, and in the state meeting, they said that out of all the students that have passed the math test for GED, 11% are college ready as far as their test scores. And of the 11%, 9% of them either come from MATC or Salina Tech. So Chris saw my head get a little bit bigger on that one. And then GED science, of course, Matt's taken over that, because of Chelsea being out on maternity leave. And it's kind of been a nice transition as far as like students are enjoying it. They enjoy both instructors, Chelsea and Matt, but then they get to kind of see 2 different teaching styles. So any questions from you guys?
Good job, Brian.
Under 15 minutes. Chris used half of it.
Rachel, is this one you?
Sure. So if there's like a robots at work, worksheet, if you want to scroll, one more down. So our evening ESL students, I've been helping with that for a couple months now. Lindsay and Michelle, they are the ones who really get all this started. one of the cool things, we teach them vocabulary, and a lot of this is advanced, like, we kind of take it for granted, but things like refrigerator or expired, sometimes those can be difficult for them to say and then actually use in a sentence. So one night we had them make up sentences using all of the vocabulary words that we used. And we told them, okay, for all these sentences, we're going to put it together in a story and we're going to do some comprehension questions the next day. So now we can kind of use what they're doing and they can make their own assignments, which is kind of cool. So that's what you see here. All I did was I kind of made their sentence flow a little bit better so it made somewhat sense together, because they get like really creative with their sentences. So that's what that is. And those bold words, those are some of the vocab words that they had to use. And I will say, if they decide not to use a vocab word, you don't ever say, oh, you had to do this, because at the end of the day, they're here to learn English and we love it. And so then the next page is just where we developed the comprehension questions. So then they could actually read what they wrote and then answer questions. So they do such great work at night. Those students are motivated, they collaborate, they're very wide range, some, you know, lower level speaking, others are a little bit higher. It's really nice to see everybody always collaborate, and yeah, those students are amazing, so.
Good stuff.
Thank you very much. Operations, facilities update.
Just a couple quick things. Everything held up well from the heavy rain and storm last night. All the new drains that we did on the RTC side of campus, as well as all the front drainage, everything worked great. The current issue we're tackling now, we have Rachel, you'd know quite a bit about this. So there's a plugging drain restroom area that we've been having a lot of trouble with, and down in our 307 wing, and keeps happening. So they finally cameraed the drain pipe, and there's a spot in it where it's collapsing down. So things are just catching in our main drain line. So obviously it has to be addressed. Right now we're looking at different options. They're located exactly where it is. So once we find out where it is in the building, then we can either trench that out and replace it, or there's options to go in and do kind of a sleeve to repair it. So right now we're just trying to figure out options, get it fixed as quick as possible. But right now we're just kind of in the figuring out what our best path forward is and getting. I'll have more on that next. Yeah.
The first one under academics is an FYI recognition. Oh, I'm sorry.
No attention. Keep going, no. So here we have our third quarter actuals, just lined up with our budget for the year, and then the far right column is the percentage of either revenues we received or expenditures incurred. So if you just kind of look through, for the most part, we're, you know, right on track with where we thought we would be. There's a few revenues that are higher, a few that are lower. As you can see, we've already got most of our tuition, and actually our credit hour and lab fees ended up coming in a little bit higher, and we still have summer, so that is good. Let's see, if you look at the building higher education fund, that's just showing that we still have about 600,000 that we can draw down. We won't need all of that this year, but we just kind of wanted to have that line on there just to give you an idea of what we still have available. That's the money that we use for our interest payments right now for the new building. Some other things like interest has, you know, fortunately come in a lot higher than we thought it would. We always kind of budget low just to be on the safe side there. So if you scroll down, then you'll just see all the expenditures. And again, for the most part, we're right on track. I think the only things that have come in a little bit higher, and I think we touched on it last quarter, but just as, I guess, a reminder, I think our property insurance ended up coming in higher than what we were originally quoted. So that's why the institutional effectiveness and compliance is a little bit higher, as well as finishing up the building. We came in under budget, but we were just under the impression that we were done. And so that's why we ended up spending that 621,000 compared to, we thought it was gonna be 558, but overall it still came in under budget, but yeah, so I don't know if there's any specific questions.
And the reserve that shows on
Yeah,
there
reserves, we're still on track to put the 500,000 in this year,
is a
which
million.
is the total of 1.5.
Quick question, under contractual expenditures, we're really way under budget on outside partnerships and consulting. Do we have big ticket items?
Yes, I probably should have mentioned that as well. So that big one is just the Excel and CTE and high school payouts that we always complete in May. So those probably were around that. I can't remember the numbers you gave me today, Chris, but we're probably right around that, around 560,000 once we pay those out in the next couple weeks.
Eric, could you expand a little bit more on the line item in the called Building Higher Education Fund?
Yeah, so those are just where, that total of 1,094,000. So that was just all the donations that we have received for the building. So we just put that in there as a revenue, just so we know it's something that we have that we can use for the new building. But then so far, we've only had to draw down 460,734.
Any other, well, and then on the, down there towards the bottom, so there's no confusion, the reserves of 500,000 are in the budget.
Yeah, we
That's
put it in the budget because we're just showing that that is a cash that we're hoping to set aside. So we showed it as, you know, an expense.
the likelihood of that at this point.
Still on track for that this year, yeah.
So would that add to the 1.5 million? in revenue?
That's the 5 of the 1.5.
Okay.
Interest income has been a surprise, which is good.
And we did, I can't remember if we mentioned this last time, but we did open a separate account just to hold our reserves now. So at least that is earning interest that's just staying in reserve. So that will help out the reserves as well.
Any other questions or discussion about financial or finance?
One more note on the reserves, we're also kicking around working on a new policy that would basically outline the procedure made to when we were ever need to withdraw from that reserves account, that Jim can't just take a vacation with it. It's got to go through a process to pull that.
He's fighting now, right?
Yeah, he's been stuck on his desk for.
Jim's tired of travel.
Yeah.
Okay. Academics. Attachment 9.
Yeah, so this is information Kim received from Cable good recognition of the excellence of our PN and RN program. So again, just to let you know, and thanks to Kim and her crew with outstanding results, and it's based off several years worth of outstanding results. So do good in healthcare. You get the recognition from Cable is always good. That comes in handy as Pam works on grants to be able to put this kind of information into this. And the company, thank you. Thank you.
More the company, not you.
Every once in a while, when the nursing students are walking by me, I say, hey, you better study hard because someday you gotta take care of me. And they go, oh my God. The next one does require one on the cybersecurity and correct?
Yes, this is.
So this one, we do need a motion and approval from the board to accept the revised program.
In 3 sentences, what's different than the previous one we had talked about?
The computer support specialist title and the CIP code to be in alignment with KBOR.
That's the only change.
Those are easy.
So was there a motion? Okay.
That's your motion.
That was fast.
Been moved in second. Any further discussion on that item?
Is this scheduled to start this fall?
We're still getting it through the process. We have to have your action, then we'll submit to KBOR next.
So the process for when it goes live.
It has to go to the TEA curriculum committee. If they approve it, it'll be an agenda with TEA and then consent agenda following with KBOR. Once we go through TEA, Kim can start the process of notifying HLC and the Fed so we can sign it delayed. I would say it's a safer bet that we'll start it
Okay.
We'll do that, the instructor position posted.
Mhm.
Good. So there's a motion and a second on the table and we need to take action on that from a vote, okay?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Should carry. Policies, remote work policy.
Peter,
Yeah, so actually, this is one that me and Josh, just wanted to make an amendment on. Scroll down, it's just this additional provision, to the policy for remote employment. It just says MHTC will provide remote employees with the necessary equipment to perform their job duties. Upon separation, employee will request to purchase company provided equipment at its fair market value with the cost deducted from their final paychecks. Any non-purchased equipment must be returned timely by the employee to MATC. Employees are responsible for the safe return of MATC equipment and may request pre-approved reimbursement for shipping costs with valid invoice and receipt. So basically, this is to cover the college in the extent that we have a remote employee who has technical equipment with them, like a laptop, computer, something like that. And it makes sure that they understand that they are on the hook for getting that equipment back to us and that we will reimburse them, or they can purchase it from us for those shipping.
Yeah, we've had some instances where somebody, can they just keep it? Can they purchase it? With it, so we just did this clear what their options are.
Is there potential, like, I'll just say proprietary information, I mean that broadly, that could be on the computer that you can't revoke, or like, different things that they would still be able to access from that document that you can't take away or revoke?
So that's why this allows for them to request to purchase rather than just simply say that they can purchase. So it would probably go through a process of they would make the request to purchase. Josh or someone would need to look into whether or not there is information or anything on that machine that would need to be taken off.
Yeah, and also, and I think too, what you're driving at, so all our remote equipment set up with work profiles to where we can, anything they're accessing our systems either through VPN, cloud storage, etc. They can't download from our SharePoint to their local drives, OneDrive, any of that, so it's all on the cloud. So once we wipe them from our system, we can wipe that work profile from their device, and then it's just a clean personal item at that point.
So you're talking about equipment now that is owned by the school.
Yes, and this would just give them the option to.
Sure, a related question is accessing of work resources from a personally owned device. What's the policy on that?
So we have a couple options. They go through kind of we have a form process for the requests. Ours is called KCM. It's basically like a temporary VPN that they can access. It's more for, if we have any employees that are accessing lots of our data, we just want to provide them our laptop and manage it and put it in our system.
Right.
But for like a faculty's maybe gonna be at a conference, something like that, and they take their own device and wanna hop on and check something. But 9 times out of 10, everything they're accessing is already cloud-based, so it's always Canvas, et cetera.
Yeah, so my concern there is, I know that accessing cloud-based stuff, but anytime company information is accessed with a personal device, there's always the potential for violations. Usually unintentional, but still happens quite a bit. Sometime I'd be interested in hearing more about the exact procedure that's done to protect MATC information, people information, whatnot, if somebody needs to access with a personal device. Yeah, thank you.
Definitely do that.
I have a question. Is there a difference between MATC will provide versus if MATC provides?
I think the goal here is basically stating that
You see where I'm going, Jim? That tells me that if I'm sitting here and I want to do something from home and I want to use my computer, you have to provide it to me.
Well, this is for people that are designated as remote employees, though.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Asking.
Chris, are you designated as a remote employee?
No. So even be considered
This-
a
I
remote
know.
employee, if you go through this whole document, there's a procedure that they have to do a formal request to even be able to do remote work. So at that point, it's like you're standing where they just wanna say they wanna work for, we can go through and then go through that approval process and then that could be denied. I mean, this isn't giving them the opportunity to say, this is what I'm doing.
We got a long agenda, but you see, Ryan, it says will.
We could wordsmith that to say MATC may provide.
But they're not a remote employee until they go through this approval process. Sure, we can change it.
Whatever, you can just bring it up to make sure.
I think you're kind of asking the question that's related to my, if you're not a remote employee, but you're accessing. It's
I mean,
part of the
we haven't
statement.
had that many remote, but we have preferred that they work from equipment that we
Yes,
standards for.
yes, you should.
Since we're making a change to the policy, does that require a vote?
Yes.
It's not in.
It's the provision of the actual policy.
Sorry, I have one more question. You mentioned in here safe return, so. There's like 1,000 what if situations there. Well, I shipped it and they packaged it, but it came in pieces when that time I got it, like I don't know what the.
The best example I can remember that we've had was with Carmela, and she actually brought the stuff back when they made a trip back here. We have, right now, we have what, 2 remote employees?
3.
Haven't had issues, have the policy in case that could happen. Not gonna give them any reimbursement until we have stuff back and know it works.
I just don't know if that opens it up for, well, UPS packaged it, they said it was safe, but when you guys get it, it's so then now who pays for it?
And that's probably where we would want them to insure it when they send it, so we've got that coverage.
Should we do that, get wordsmith in here or something?
Yeah, we can definitely add that if you can take action to say upon that we amend and get something in there about that, or we can bring it back next month. If this is I mean, we've got time.
It doesn't need to be remembered, but I just want to make sure that you guys are protected from any future.
Let's bring it back next month.
Okay.
Any action on it over this month, consider next month. Okay. Supplemental employee assignments. Attachment 12.
So this is a new policy. It is essentially meant to provide a clear and consistent means for the potential of employees being receiving special assignments outside of their regular position or work scope. And basically ensuring that they understand what to expect when it comes to potential compensation for those assignments. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but if you have questions, I would love to hear them. Our legal counsel did review this policy along with the supplemental agreement that's included with it. The agreement itself is more of an internal document. It's just the policy that we're needing reviewed today. But legal reviewed it. They think it's a good policy. They did suggest some language which is in there. But it's basically there just to ensure that employees and administration are aware of what to expect when it comes to those kind of agreements with employees for special assignments.
Is this both within and external to collective bargaining groups?
So this would be technically separate from the collective bargaining group. And I think I don't remember if it's in the policy or in the actual agreement. But the idea being that, let's say that there's a extra grant that comes about, or there's a workforce gap that needs to be filled. Basically, it would be within admin's right to say, okay, we want to use to cover this temporary gap, or to have this employee work on this aspect of the grant for the time being. So it's not meant to be contradictory or in conflict with any bargaining.
Okay. Thank you.
Grants are the best example because
Sure.
Payment's gonna be made as long as the grant's active. This does require board approval.
Any other questions or discussion on this matter?
This is the policy itself and not the supplemental.
Right, so there's the policy, and I think a little bit further down is the supplemental, the actual agreement example.
Right. We need to entertain a motion to approve the policy as presented. Point five.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you,
Technology, that's what we're gonna blame it on.
attachment 13.
I don't think we need to go through the. That just goes with the policy.
That's just an internal.
Okay. Resource development.
I'll be quick. Well, I'll have more to update next month, but adult ed, was approved to receive funding for the next 2030. We don't know the amount yet. Jim and I are going to speak tomorrow morning to talk to the directors about.
And what did you score on the grant?
98.5 out of 100.
Show off.
Spelled his name wrong. The importance of that is. Yeah, that's it. I didn't get 100. I'm sorry, John. The importance of that part is, obviously Riley County is our main area, but we do share two other counties with other entities that have adult education programs. And so by the rules of the thing, whoever has the higher score gets first dibs on certain things. So we will go talk and see what we can do.
Two existing programs in the state did not get grants submitted on time and were not funded at all.
Correct. Dodge City unfortunately had a technical error, same with Payola as school district. We're trying to work with neighboring institutions to still meet. There is still.
Second one, the GIST grant, Pamela.
Yep, I'll kind of do the grants. And Tanny, we had received the Kansas Department of Commerce GIST grant. It was at 79. That was a matching grant by the institution of 79,000, and it's to provide a workforce development out at Manco for industrial maintenance technology. Chris is going to be operationalizing that grant with Manco. So that's what's going on there. Eligible for various certificates. The recipients of the training would be eligible for various industry certificates. Any further elaboration, sir?
Nope.
Okay.
Just it's with our IMT program, working with some festival. So currently we just want to upskill some of their workers.
And the funding that we received, we are using for equipment purchases for training and for here at MATC campus in Manhattan. After initial application, we were invited to apply for a Johnson Control college grant. We are in the process now. It'll go in next week. We're making a $300,000 request, which would be over a 3-year period. I'll go into the details, but I'll just give an overview right now. It involves us making the request of $100,000 over a 3-year period for various types of scholarships directed at primarily the industrial maintenance technology and HVAC program, given the nature of Johnson Controls. That is their focus area, as well as probably another $100,000 going towards academic support coaches to be in the classroom working with students, particularly those who are at risk of not successfully performing, and that would be support to the students and serving as coaches. And then there's just the kind of differentiator as part of that grant, where it would just be a $25K for a workforce exploratorium, and that would involve some materials and equipment. Hard equipment is not permissible under the grant, but for the exploratorium purposes, we worked with them and they said, well, to looking at this. the several pieces of equipment that could help provide an introduction and exposure to trade-related careers, particularly those in industrial maintenance technology, sensor technology, PLC. It could be used as a recruitment tool for people who come in, for parents or counselors to better understand the technology, as well as our existing student population to really become exposed to the breadth of technologies that are available. And it also has helped us continue the dialogue that Jim and others have had over the years with Johnson Control for larger equipment requests that are unrelated to the grant that can bring us potentially some large pieces.
Their control system is what NBAF uses. Then Patterson,
Okay, Patterson grant,
round two.
round two, this would be the 2025 grant. We received the about approximately 800,000 last year for the AV AR/VR trailer. This is the 2025 grant, Patterson Family Foundation, rural areas only. Riley cannot be under consideration. We are looking at standing up a sensor technology workforce development lab at our Wamego campus. So much of the technology in today's industry, whether we were talking about construction or all, really any industry involved sensor technology. And this would provide hands-on training for sensor technology applications across various trade industries. Combined with that, we are looking at the construction of a certificate, and that certificate would not be a certificate that is recognized by KBOR, but could potentially be used by our students if they choose to earn a certificate in this area, or for our Workforce Development Tech Plus and a trade-based interdisciplinary sensor technology certificate, which would involve people being able to merge multiple industries into a single certificate as kind of like this overarching exposure, kind of interdisciplinary studies in the sensor technology as it relates to the trade area. So those are initiatives that we're currently working on as well.
No two-year college in the nation at this time has anything on sensor technology. KBOR wants us to be innovative, but not that innovative. We're going to did with other programs. MCM has expressed interest in it because of their quarry operations use a lot of sensors and care of it.
So on the prior grant that you talked about that had the matching contribution,
Just grant.
It's grant, yeah.
that the matching funds basically just come out of general operating funds
Or donated funds.
that has not been.
And it can be, when it's donated, it can be in kind as well. So we're putting all that together. It really will add some more equipment.
If it was donated funds, would that, I'm just using this example, would that go through the foundation or is that directly to the college?
Either way.
Governance monitoring report.
Nothing due this month. I have my extended report with a lot of updates that you can read at your leisure, or if you have trouble going to sleep, that should take care of it. Brings us to consideration of the fourth plan. Pull it back up. Yes. Again, you know, we won't anticipate state appropriations being reduced 50%. We anticipate the college in a little bit of a financial bind. Reduction in force is an option that we can implement based on your direction. See fit. Continue to look for ways to that impact of that appropriations. We anticipate enrollment increase in the fall, but we can't count on that until we see it. We do need board to take action on the plan and or that as you wish. You can say, no, we're not doing it.
I think I understand what I want to say, but I'm not sure, so I'll try.
You trying to make a motion?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I move that we authorize a reduction in force. Should reserves be used by the staff to implement that, that there's a not to exceed from our reserve of $250,000. And then by October, we have the plan for how those $250,000 would be put back into our reserves over the next 24-month period.
So I'm going to ask, the intent of what you said was that is to minimize reduction in force as much as we see possible. Is that correct? The sense of the board?
And then should that require the use of reserve funds not to exceed 100,000 with the plan by October, implement in two years.
Any other comments?
Maybe a
Discussion?
second.
Was that a motion?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I'd like to have Susie read that. Are you writing this down? Read that motion back.
Kinda,
Kinda.
yes. You want me to
You
read it?
Read that
want to
back.
read it back?
We're capturing it on AI. so-
It is on our AI machine.
Yeah.
Great job, but so John made a motion to approve the reduction in force with the stipulation of if the reserves is being used not in excess of 250,000. And a plan in October, I hadn't written that yet, and a plan in place by October to recoup whatever was used from reserves
Over a 2-year period.
over to your, yeah, I'll make it sound way nicer than
And the
that.
intent, reserves are used is to minimize reduction. You're approving the plan with that addition.
So between now and October, I assume that there will be some ongoing reporting to the board as to what that use of reserves has been on a month-to-month or year-to-date basis.
Based on your action on motion. And senior administration will convene, like what you've guided us to do. Together. Implementation plan. Realizing we have some latitude on using reserves to minimize impact. And put together the plan to present to you on how we reimburse reserves over 24 months.
I guess I would just ask the question, are there any concerns that you have or the administration has about this particular motion? I mean, that you feel like you need to verbalize?
As I understand, you're providing me with the authority to make decisions to enact this as needed to safeguard the financial integrity of the institution.
That would be what my intent with that would be.
Can you
match that?
Yep.
So it's been moved and seconded.
Mhm.
Are there any other comments, discussion? If not, I would ask for a vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
In favor. Work on that. On the rest of the agenda is a list of upcoming activities. Susie will reach out to you to look at when we might do a retreat. We also need feedback from the board, looking ahead to next year's meeting dates, if you want to leave it the same. If we need to consider a change. Fort Riley graduation on welding, nurses pinning and commencement, then board meeting. I will be absent from pinning and commencement so I can attend my younger granddaughter's high school graduation. Ask Tim about that. Tim will be speaking. Vice President Gefeller will be filling in for me.
You're still doing a video, right?
Appreciate being able to attend my granddaughter's.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anything else? Thank you. I know this was a long and interesting meeting. Guidance is, as always, greatly appreciated.
With that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
All right.
Move the second, all in favor, say aye.
Good.
Good job.
See y'all.